listened last night.
I have no more campaigns to run. My only agenda, I know because I won both of them.
Phil, I feel like all that was missing at the end of that was the president saying, yeah.
Good evening from New York. My name is Rich Klein. I'm president of Rich Klein Crisis Management, and this is episode 91 of The Crisis Show. The clip you just saw is a great example of how important it is that you, the CEO, you, the leader of an organization, you, the president of a university, can comfortably go off script to push back at negative criticism of you or your organization. Those of you who just saw that clip, who saw it last night or just now, know that this is getting tremendous amount of attention in the media and social media. Despite the hour-long speech, it was this remark, this "I know, I won both of them," was just a brilliant moment by the president. Now, he had two choices here. He could have stuck with the script and allowed the sarcastic Republicans in the audience to get away with that that clapping when he said he's no longer going to be running for re-election. But he didn't. He jumped on it with a perfect quip. And the lesson here, folks, is that you have to be prepared for any speech, any presentation, and particularly in a crisis situation. You should have some kind of script or cards of key messages on them. But you don't want to be sitting here like this in any presentation, particularly to the media, reading line by line. And this is why I think it's important to focus on what President Obama did last night. It was the unscripted remark that got a lot of attention, but also protected his reputation. So think about the things that you may be criticized for that maybe you didn't prepare for in your presentation to the media or any other critical audience. We, as public relations and crisis management consultants, always do our best to anticipate the kinds of hardball and tough questions that you may get in any kind of interview. But because we cannot predict every kind of question or uncover every scandal or every situation inside your company or organization that may come up, you have to be able to think quickly on your feet to do just like the president did last night, and that is to respond in kind to the kind of criticism that may come out of nowhere. So it was just a brilliant moment and a great example of how you can go off script and immediately negate criticism coming at you. Remember, in this situation, there were millions of people around the world watching this speech. And had President Obama just gone back to the teleprompter, or in your case, maybe going back to your notes, or whatever the case may be, you are allowing that criticism to fester, to continue. And it goes to what I've always talked about on the show and to my clients, which is don't let negative criticism go unchallenged, especially when it's so inaccurate, especially when they're outright lies. And this was just an example of pushing back immediately as only you could with a live television audience. But even if you are not being watched by millions of people, it is an important lesson for you as a leader to be able to push back, to not only just push back, but be aware of your surroundings. If you are at a press conference and you know that in that front row, there is a local reporter, for instance, who has been unfair to your leadership, unfair to you in their coverage of your leadership or about your company or your brand or your university, you know to expect something just like that. Like I said, last night it came in the form of a sarcastic applause, but more often it's going to come out in the form of a so-called media question at the podium. And that could happen whether you're speaking in a crisis situation or just giving a speech to any kind of audience. We've all heard of hecklers, right? So it could be, again, at a press conference, at a speech. It could also happen when you're talking to an internal audience. For example, if you're the CEO of a company or the managing partner of a law firm addressing a very large group, you could have criticism come up in a public way. And the way to deal with that is to be prepared as best you can for those kinds of questions that may come up. Remember, the answer to that question more than likely is not going to be in that script or in your notes. So you have to be able to think on your feet and be able to push back very quickly with a soundbite, much like President Obama did last night in his State of the Union. Again, it's good to have notes. You don't want to be reading notes, and you also want to be flexible enough in your presentation to know when it's appropriate to go off the script to push back at criticism that most certainly at some point in your career will come your way, and you don't want to let it go unanswered and unchallenged. So keep that in mind. This is an abbreviated edition of The Crisis Show. If you want to comment or have anything to say about what I just said here on The Crisis Show, please use hashtag The Crisis Show and check out our past 90 episodes at thecrisisshow.com. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.